Hello everyone. In lesson 1 we discussed about introduction to programming, and then in Dev C++ IDE we created a simple program which displays some text on the screen. In this lesson we will start with variables. Let's begin with variables. Whenever we write programs, most of the time we have to work with some data, either in the form of numbers or characters. For this we must need a way through which we can store these data temporarily in the memory, and variables are used for this. Now as we can see in this figure, this is our memory, that is RAM, and this is divided into blocks, and each block has a unique numerical address. Now whenever we execute or run a program, everything gets loaded into these locations, and similarly the data part also gets stored in these blocks. Now as I told that each of these blocks has a unique address, so the only way to identify a particular block, or we can say a memory location, is through this numerical address only. Now if we go through this approach, it becomes very difficult for us to handle these numerical addresses in our program. So we give names to these locations, and these names are called variables, and we call them as variables because data in these locations can be overwritten. So information in these locations can vary with time, and hence these are variables. Now when we declare variables, their name must start with a character or an underscore. However, it is recommended to start with character only. So this is the naming part. Apart from name, every variable has a type, size and a value, and usually when we declare variable, it has a name, type and size, which is simply like an empty box. In order to use the variables, we must put some value in these boxes, and this is known as assigning values to variables. For example, this is a memory location, and if I gave it a name, say X, it's like an empty box with no value. So to give it a value, we use assignment operator. So if I write X is equal to 10, it means that the value 10 is put into this memory location whose name is X. So 10 gets stored into this location. After assigning, when we write X, it simply gives the value stored at X, which is in this case is 10. So if we want to assign a value 10 to a variable X, this X must be of type integer, and then it can store only integer values, nothing else. Similarly, there are other data types for characters and decimal numbers. So the primary difference between these variables data types is the size, that is number of blocks required to store the values. So note that in memory usually each block has a size of 1 byte, which is equivalent to 8 bits. So first let's see all the data types that can store only whole numbers, that is numbers without decimals, and in C these are int, short and long. So int store integer values and takes 4 bytes, that is 32 bits of space in memory. So consider this is our blocks in memory, and if we write int X, this line reserves 4 bytes of memory and label that as X, as you can see in this figure. And this line int X, we call this as declaration statement. This represents a box which can store only integer values, but at this point it has no value. In order to put some value in this, we have to use assignment operator. So if we write X is equal to 10, this stores the value 10 inside these locations. Obviously, actually this gets stored in the form of zeros and ones as binary digits. One more thing to note is that instead of using these two statements, int X and X is equal to 10, we can club these two together in a single statement. So we can write int X is equal to 10 in a single line as well. So let's go to the IDE now, and here I'm creating a program that will simply add two numbers. So first of all, create a new source file, and let's save this file as addition.cpp, or you can give it any name. So click on save, and this is our addition.cpp file. So first of all, we are writing the same lines, so hash include iostream, then using namespace std, then our main function. So everything in C or C++ starts with this main function. So here first of all, I'm declaring two variables, int num1 and int num2. So in these variables we will store the two numbers, and then we will declare another variable, int sum, and after calculating sum of these two numbers, we will store the result in this sum variable. So now let's assign the value 10 to num1 and value 15 to num2. Then in the sum variable we are doing simple calculation, num1 plus num2, and finally using cout we can display the result. So the sum is sum. So let's save this program and compile this. So as you can see that the program has compiled successfully and there are no errors or warnings. Let's close this and now click on run. And as you can see that the sum is 25. So firstly, somewhere in the memory these three variables will be created having no values. Then we have assigned values 10 and 15 to the variables num1 and num2. So at this point variables num1 and num2 are having values 10 and 15, and the variable sum still does not have any value assigned. Then in the next line we are assigning value to the variable sum, which is nothing but summation of integers num1 and num2. Here note that we are using two operators. One is assignment operator, this, and the other is addition operator, which is simply an arithmetic addition. We discussed that when we write a variable name, it gives its value, and in this case we write num1 and it gives its value, which is 10, and for num2 it gives the value 15. So 10 plus 15 is 25, and hence the value 25 will get stored in the location whose name is sum. In the final statement we are displaying the result using cout. So let's see how this will be printed. So whatever is there inside these double quotation marks will be displayed as it is, and then as we know, on writing the variable name, it refers to the value stored in it. So here the value of sum will be displayed, which is equal to 25. Let's run this again. So you can see that these shortcut options are available here as well, so you can compile directly from here. So there is option for compiling, running, or this is the option which compiles and run in a single click. So let's run this program again, and we can see that the value 25 is printed and sum itself is not printed here. We have just seen the integer data type, which represents whole numbers in 4 bytes of space. So maximum integer value that we can store in an int variable is of the order of 2 to the power 32, as there are 32 bits in 4 bytes, and Apart from int, there are two more data types for representing whole numbers, and these are short and long. Now short is of 2 bytes, and if we are using small integer values in our program, we can use short in that case. Long, on the other hand, is used for storing very large values. For example, if we are performing some scientific calculations which includes values such as distance between sun and earth and so on, in that case we have to go for long data type. Next are data types for real numbers. In C or C++ we have two data types, float and double, which deals with numbers with decimal points. Now float data types is of 4 bytes and is used for storing real numbers. As shown in these statements, firstly we have declared 3 variables x, y and sum of type float, and then assigned decimal number values to these. So we have assigned 25.67 to x and 10.15 to y. Sum is also of type float, so here we are performing simple arithmetic addition as we did in our previous example. Then if we want to store a large real number which cannot be stored in 4 bytes, we can use double data type for that, and its size is double as compared to that of float. Till now we have looked only into storing numerical values. However, in programming, apart from numbers, we need to store characters as well, like English alphabets or any other symbol. For this we have char data type, and this is how we can use this. Here we are declaring a variable c of type char, so 1 byte will get reserved in the memory. Then we are assigning a value to this. Note that the value g is there in single quotation marks, and there can be only one character inside this. We cannot write multiple characters inside single quotation marks. Let's see this in dev C++ as well. So below this I am declaring another variable char c, and then I am assigning it a value. So c is equal to g, and then in the C out we can print its value. So the value of C is, and here I can, instead of sum I can write C. So let's save this and click on compile and run. So this will compile and run the program in a single go, and you can see the output that the value of C is G. Let's close this. So till now we have seen only one arithmetic operator, and that is for addition. And as we can see here in C, we can use other usual operators as well, such as multiplication, division, subtraction and modulus. And as you can see here that for subtraction we can use the same algebraic expression x minus y. For multiplication we use x asterisk y, and for division we use this slash symbol. Then there is modulus operator, which gives remainder. So x mod y will first divide x and y and returns the remainder as a result. So for example, if I am using 5 mod 2, so the remainder is 1, so x mod y will return 1 in this case. Similarly, if I am using 4 mod 2, in this case the result would be 0, as the remainder is 0 in this case. So let's go to dev C++, and here let's create a simple program for illustrating these operators. So let me create a new source file, and let's save this file with name operators.cpp, and let's write the program. So to illustrate these operators, I'm creating two variables of type int. So int x is equal to 10 and int y is equal to say 5, and then using cout we can print the various results, say cout x plus y and then x plus y. So as we know that anything within the quotation marks will be printed as it is, so here x plus y will be displayed and then followed by the result of x plus y. So x is 10 and y is 5, so 15 will be displayed here. Okay, so let's quickly write other operations as well. So x minus y cout x multiplied by y and x divided by y. And the last is modulus operator. So x mod y. So this completes our program, and can save and compile and run this. And as you can see that x plus y is 15, x minus y is 5, and 10 into 5 is 50, and then x divided by y is 2 and x mod y is 0. Now one thing to note here is that everything is printed in a single line. So when we write cout, this is displayed on the screen. After that this is displayed, so nowhere we have created a new line. So for instance, if I want to display these results in different lines, so for that we have to create a new line character, and this symbol for that is \n. So if I want to print new line after each cout statements, then in that case we have to use this \n symbol. This is nothing but character representation of new line character. So this is \n. So we can insert this after every cout statement. And then when we run our program, all these will be printed in a separate line. So let's save this and compile and run the program again. And as you can see that each cout statement is displayed in a new line, and this is because of this new line character. Now suppose instead of 5, if we have assigned the value 4 to this variable y, then what would be the result of this line? That is x divided by y. Let's save and run this program. Now as you can see that x divided by y is 2. However 10 divided by 4 is not exactly 2, but as we know that integers can only store whole numbers, so when we divide 10 by 4, the result is 2 point something. So in this case the decimal part will be removed automatically. So 4 divided by 10 will give us 2. So this is to note that whenever we are using division operations, in that case it is always better to use float data type instead of integers. Let's get back to our slides, and the next thing is operators precedence. Now suppose we have an expression, say some number multiplied by another number, then adding some different number into that. So what would be the precedence of the operations? So suppose we have this expression, x is equal to 10 multiplied by 3 plus 4 divided by 2. So one way to evaluate this is multiply 10 by 3, which is 30, then add 4 to it, which is 34, and finally dividing by 2. This will result in 17. So value 17 would be assigned to variable x. Now in C, the precedence of operator is something like this. So first of all, brackets are evaluated, then multiplication, division or modulus are evaluated, and finally addition and subtractions are evaluated. So if we solve this expression using these precedents, in that case, as there are no brackets in this, second, these multiplication, division and modulus will be calculated. So there is one multiplication which is 10 into 3, so this is 30, and then division will be performed, so 4 divided by 2, which is 2, and finally the addition will be performed, so 30 plus 2, and the result of this expression would be 32. And as you can see that 32 is correct and 17 is the wrong answer. Let's try to implement this in program as well. So let me remove all these statements, and here I am writing int x, and then I am assigning this expression to this. So x is equal to 10 multiplied by 3 plus 4 divided by 2, and finally I am displaying the value of x on the screen. So the value of x is so. Let's save and compile this program. And as you can see that the value is 32. Now what if instead of 32 I want to display 17? Now in that case we have to go for bracket in this expression. So let me create another variable which is int y, and this time I am assigning, say, 10 multiplied by 3, and then I am adding 4 to this, so this will again come in brackets, and finally I am dividing this by 2. So what will happen in this case is, first of all, 10 is multiplied by 3, as this is the bracket, so this will be evaluated first, so this is 30, and then this bracket will be evaluated, so 30 plus 4 is 34, and finally the division will take place. The answer of y would be 17. So let's print the value of y as well. See out the value of y, and let's put a new line character here. So let's save and run this. So here we can see the use of precedence operators. Till now, in all the programs that we have seen so far, we have displayed some information to the user on the screen. But what if, as a user, we want to give some information to the program? Or in other words, we can say that what if our program wants to take some value from the user and then assign that to a variable used inside the program. We have used cout, which is an output stream. So whatever it takes, it simply displays that on the screen. And as we can see here in this example, and these arrows indicate the direction of data. So firstly, we have declared and initialized a variable num with value 5 and then displaying its value on the screen using cout. Similarly, we have its counterpart, which is cin. The cin is the input stream that gets data from user and assigns it to the variable on its right side. So if we run these statements, at cin execution of our program will get paused as it expects the user to enter something, and whatever value the user will enter, that value will be assigned to this variable num. As data type of num is integer, user must enter an integral value. The main point to note in this statement is direction of arrows. In cout we have used arrows pointing towards cout, and here the arrows are pointing from cin to num variable. As we know that arrows indicate direction of data flow. So in case of cin, data is coming from the user via screen and then is getting assigned to the variable num, and hence these arrows are pointing in opposite direction as compared to cout. So here we have declared a variable, then waits for the user to enter some value through keyboard, and then we are assigning that value to the variable num. Finally, again using cout, we are displaying value of the same variable, as you can see here. Now let's take a real life scenario. For example, we want to calculate average marks of a student. So in this program we will ask the user to enter marks of a student, then we will calculate the average marks and display the result back to the user on the screen. So let's close both these files, and here I am creating a new source file, and let's save this as average marks.cpp, and let's write the program. So in this program I will be using float data type so that the average marks will be displayed in decimals. So I'm creating 5 variables of type float: float sub1, sub2, sub3, sub4 and sub5. So this is another way we can declare multiple variables of same type in a single line as well, by separating each of these by comma. And let's create another float variable, which is average marks. Till now we declared and initialized variables in the program itself, but now we want the user to enter values for these variables, and for that we will use cin. So first of all, using cout, we are displaying this text that enter marks for subject 1, and then using cin we are assigning the value to the variable subject 1. So what will happen that first of all this text will be displayed, and then the execution of the program will be paused, and when user enters some value, it will be assigned to this variable sub1. So let's save and try to run this. It has compiled successfully. Now let's run this, and as you can see here that this text is displayed that enter marks for subject 1, and the execution is paused at this point. So now I can enter any number, say 35, and When I press enter, the program terminates. So we will use the same approach for entering marks for all the 5 subjects. So again we'll use cout and enter marks for subject 2 and assign that to variable sub2, and similarly for 3, 4 and 5. So marks for subject 3 C in sub 3, and let me copy this for 4 and 5. Once we have values for all these variables, we can simply calculate the average marks. So that we will assign to this average marks variable. So average marks is equal to, I'm using bracket here, so sub 1 plus sub 2 plus sub 3 plus sub 4 plus sub 5, and then dividing this by 5. So once the average marks are calculated, we can simply display the result using cout. So the average marks and the value of this average marks variable. So let's save this and compile the program. So the program has compiled successfully. Now let's run this. So as you can see, enter marks for subject 1. So let's give 30 for subject 2, 25, then 76, 45, and for subject 5 say 50. And when we enter, so it is displaying the average marks, which is 45.2. Now as we have used the float data types, that's why it is displaying the decimal part as well. So the main motive of this program was to see how to take input from user using cin. So that's all from this lesson. In next lesson we will discuss about conditional statements, logical operators, and we will also see what are flowcharts and how to create those for our programs. So thanks for watching.